I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to get blindsided like this. My name's Mike, and I've been with Rachel for about 4 years. We got engaged a few months ago, and everything seemed perfect until it was. Looking back, I guess there were little signs. She started being more distant, canceling plans last minute, and she kept claiming she was at her mom's or working late. I brushed it off, thinking maybe she was just stressed or tired. I mean, she's always been a bit of a bitch, demanding, sarcastic, quick to lie when it suited her. But I loved her, so I ignored the small red flags. The night I proposed, I was nervous as hell. I planned it all out at our favorite restaurant, got down on one knee, and she said yes. Her eyes shining, she looked genuinely happy, or at least I thought she was. That night I felt on top of the world. We went back to her place, and I thought that was the start of our forever. We talked about kids, the house, everything. I even told her I loved her more than anything. That's when things started to feel a little off. But I shrugged it off as just nerves. Then a few days later, I noticed her phone was acting weird. She'd hide it when I walked into the room, and her messages seemed more secretive. I didn't think too much of it at first, but my gut told me something was up. Still, I kept my trust in her. The thing is, I'm not exactly a snoop, but one night I was lying in bed, scrolling through my own phone, and I saw her messages pop up on the screen. They weren't meant for me. They were from someone named Tyler. I almost dropped my phone. I didn't even know she knew anyone by that name. Curious, I read the messages, and what I saw knocked the wind out of me. It wasn't just friendly banter. It was outright flirting, talking about meeting up, good sex, all kinds of stuff that should have been private. She called him babe, said she couldn't wait to see him again, and even joked about how I'd never suspect a thing. I was stunned. My mind was racing. How could she do this? How long had she been cheating? And why? All I could think about was the betrayal. I felt sick, like my entire world was crashing down around me. I stared at her sleeping there next to me, pretending to be innocent while I had just uncovered her lying, cheating face. That's when I knew I couldn't keep pretending I didn't see. I had to confront her. But I didn't know what to say or how to start. I just knew nothing could ever be the same again. The next morning, I lay there in bed staring at her, trying to piece together what I'd just uncovered. My mind was a hurricane of anger, sadness, confusion, everything. I kept thinking about all the times she'd told me she was at her mom's, all the lies I'd brushed aside because I wanted to believe in us. And now, here I was, realizing she'd been sneaking around, probably even cheating on me that night I proposed. The thought made my stomach turn. I kept asking myself, how long had she been doing this? Was there someone else before Tyler? Or was he just the latest in her string of lies? I finally got up, trying to find some clarity. I didn't want to rush into anything, but I knew I couldn't just ignore it either. My heart was pounding and my hands were trembling as I picked up her phone again. I needed to see if there were more messages, more proof. I scrolled back through her texts, looking for anything that confirmed my worst fears. And sure enough, I found more. Not just from Tyler, but from other guys too. Flirty messages, sexy pictures, things she definitely shouldn't be hiding from me. Each message was like a dagger to my chest. I couldn't believe I'd been blind for so long, trusting her, loving her, thinking she was my future. I remember feeling numb and furious at the same time. How could she be so bitchy, so manipulative? She always acted like she was the innocent victim, lying her way through every excuse. She'd say things like, "You're overreacting," or "You're paranoid," whenever I asked about her phone or her whereabouts. And she'd give me that look, the one that said I was crazy for doubting her. But now I knew she was just a master at lying. The woman I married was nothing like the person I thought I'd spend my life with. She was a scam, a fraud. I knew I couldn't face her just yet. I needed a plan. I spent the rest of the day thinking about what to do, trying to keep my emotions in check. I kept asking myself if I should confront her right away or wait until I had all the facts. I decided I'd need to be calm, but that was easier said than done. Every time I looked at her, I saw that bitchy smirk she always had when she was caught in a lie. I remembered all the times she was dismissive, how she'd make excuses when I asked questions. I realized I'd been played for a fool, her sweet, bitchy face hiding a cold, manipulative side. That night I finally gathered all the evidence I needed. Her messages, her secret photos, the whole truth. I sat her down, ready to ask her what the hell was going on. I wanted answers. No, I needed answers. But I already knew the truth. Whatever she said next, nothing could undo what I'd found. I wasn't just hurt. I was furious, betrayed, and overwhelmed with a sense of loss. I'd loved her, built my life around her, and now I had no idea who she really was. It felt like my entire world was crumbling and I was standing there in the wreckage, trying to hold it together before I exploded. The confrontation didn't go the way I expected, but maybe I shouldn't have been surprised. When I finally asked her straight up, "Rachel, what the hell is going on?" She looked at me with that same bitchy smirk, like I was bothering her. She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms, and said, "What are you talking about? You're crazy. I'd never cheat on you." That was her usual bullshit, the kind she threw out whenever she got caught lying. I held up her phone and showed her the messages, expecting her to crack, to at least look guilty or embarrassed. But she just snorted and said, "That's just some of my old friends. You don't know what you're talking about, Mike." I knew then that arguing with her was pointless. She'd been caught red-handed, yet she doubled down, pretending it was all a mistake or some misunderstanding. She called me paranoid, accused me of invading her privacy, and started crafting some bullshit about how she was only talking to Tyler because she felt lonely. She told me, "You don't understand, I was just venting. It's not like we're actually doing anything. It's just sex talk, and honestly, I don't see the big deal. You're overreacting." I was so furious I couldn't even speak. My whole body was trembling. How could she be so callous? How could she insult my intelligence like that? I looked at her and all I saw was her bitchy face, the one she always used when she was trying to manipulate me into feeling guilty for catching her. She sat there, acting like she was the innocent victim, like I was the one in the wrong for finding out her lies. That's when I realized she had been lying to me for months, maybe even longer. The worst part was her tone, flat, dismissive, like she didn't care that she'd just shattered everything we built. I felt a deep ache inside, a combination of heartbreak and rage. It was like my chest was being squeezed, and all I could think about was how much I'd trusted her. I thought about all the nights I stayed up worrying, all the little red flags I ignored because I loved her so much. And now all I saw was a woman who was willing to lie her way through our relationship, who thought she could get away with cheating without consequences. I told her I needed space, that I wasn't sure what to do. She rolled her eyes again and said, "Fine, take all the time you want, but you're wasting your energy. Nothing's going to change." That's when I knew I had to make a choice. Do I try to salvage this? Do I forgive her and pretend none of this happened? Or do I finally admit that she's not the person I thought she was? Honestly, I was torn. Part of me still loved her, but another part was screaming that I deserved better than to be played for a fool. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay when I knew the truth. I was angry, betrayed, and hurt more than I let on. And deep down, I knew I couldn't come back from this. The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and kept replaying that confrontation over and over in my head. Every time I thought about her, Rachel, the woman I married, I felt a mix of disgust and heartbreak. The way she lied, the way she dismissed everything I said, it was like I didn't even know her. She was always so bitchy, so manipulative, but I never thought she'd be capable of this level of deception. I mean, I proposed to her, for God's sake. That night, I truly believed she was the one. Now, I wasn't sure what was real anymore. Did she ever love me? Or was I just some temporary placeholder in her twisted game? I decided I had to see her face to face and get some closure. I didn't want to drag this out. She needed to explain herself, or at least give me some reason to understand why she did it. One evening, I knocked on her door, heart pounding in my chest. When she opened it, she looked surprised but quickly covered her face with that bitchy smirk again. "Oh, it's you," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "What do you want?" I stepped inside, trying to keep my voice steady. "We need to talk, Rachel. I saw the messages, all of them, and I want to hear it from you, why you did this and what it was all about." She rolled her eyes and said, "Seriously, you're making a huge deal out of a little flirting. Tyler's just a friend. You're overreacting. You always do." I couldn't believe her. How could she be so dismissive, so cold? I told her I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore, that I deserved honesty even if it was painful. She sighed heavily, turning her back to me, then spun around with that bitchy look again. Look, Mike, I don't know what you want me to say. Things happen, people get bored. Sex with Tyler. Yeah, it was fun, but it doesn't mean anything. You think I'm some kind of terrible person for having a little fun. Grow up. You're so insecure, always accusing me of stuff. Maybe you're the one who's really the problem here. Her words cut like knives. I felt the rage bubbling up inside, but I kept my cool, barely. I told her she could lie all she wanted, but I knew the truth. I knew she'd been cheating on me for months, maybe longer. And I didn't know if I could ever trust her again. That night, I sat alone in my apartment trying to process everything. I kept asking myself if I should fight for her, try to fix what was broken, or just cut my losses and walk away. I was angry at her, yes, but also devastated. I kept thinking about the future I'd envisioned, the life we were supposed to build, and how she had shattered all of it with her lies. I realized that I was never going to be able to look at her the same way again. Every word, every touch, every memory now felt tainted. That bitchy mask she wore so well had finally fallen, revealing her true face, cold, manipulative, and unfaithful. I decided I needed some space, time to think, to breathe. I told her I was leaving for a while, that I didn't know what I wanted, but I needed distance. She scoffed, called me dramatic, said I was overreacting. But I didn't care. I knew I couldn't stay in a relationship built on lies. That was the point where I realized I'd been betrayed in a way I never thought possible. She was supposed to be my wife, my partner, the one I could trust with everything. Instead, I found out she was cheating on me with my best friend, Tyler. The pain was overwhelming, but I knew one thing for sure. My life was about to change forever, and I'd have to decide how to pick up the pieces from here. The days turned into weeks, and I kept oscillating between anger, sadness, and a strange numbness. I spent most of my time alone, trying to make sense of what had happened. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her bitchy face, the way she lied so effortlessly, as if her betrayal was just some minor mistake. I kept replaying that night I proposed, how perfect everything seemed, and then how everything crumbled in an instant. It was like my entire world had been turned upside down, and I didn't know how to put the pieces back together. I finally reached a point where I knew I had to make a choice. I couldn't keep living in this limbo, haunted by her lies and the betrayal. So I decided I'd confront Tyler, the guy she cheated on me with. I wanted to know what was really going on from his side, maybe even get some closure, or maybe just get revenge by telling him exactly what I thought about him. I didn't expect to get any sincere apology or explanation from either of them, but I needed to hear it straight from the source. I knew this was my way of reclaiming some control over my life. One evening, I went to meet Tyler at a bar. I told myself I wouldn't lose my temper, but when I saw him, it was hard not to. He looked smug, confident, like he'd won something. I sat down across from him and laid everything out, how I found the messages, how I felt betrayed, and how much I hated the fact that he'd come into our lives and destroyed everything. Tyler just shrugged and said, "Look, man, she's hot, she's fun, and she was bored. I didn't think it was a big deal. Honestly, I don't see why you're making such a fuss." That threw me for a loop. I mean, really. That was his attitude. I wanted to punch him, but I held back. Instead, I told him that whatever he thought, he was just another piece of her web of lies. I said I'd never trust her again, and that I'd cut her out of my life once and for all. Hearing him dismiss it like that made me realize just how shallow she was, how she played everyone for a fool. I left that night feeling more determined than ever. This was the end of us, and I was not going to be a part of her game anymore. Back home, I started packing. I couldn't stay in that apartment with her anymore, not after everything I'd discovered. I told her I was leaving for good. She yelled, called me crazy, tried to guilt-trip me into staying, but I wasn't falling for it. I knew I couldn't fix her, couldn't fix us. The betrayal ran too deep. The woman I'd loved, the woman I proposed to, was gone. All that was left was someone I barely recognized, bitchy, manipulative, and unfaithful. I reached a point where I accepted that I was better off without her. No more lies, no more betrayal. It was time to start over. That night I slept in my car, feeling the weight of everything lift just a little. I knew this was the right choice, even if it hurt like hell. I learned that trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to repair. I also learned that some people, like Rachel, are just good at hiding who they really are, and that sometimes you have to go through hell to realize your worth. Now I'm trying to rebuild myself piece by piece. And honestly, I'd tell anyone out there, don't ignore the red flags. If someone's lying, hiding, and acting bitchy when you ask questions, trust your gut, because that's probably not someone who's worth your love or your time in the end. Looking back, I still feel the sting of what she did, how she betrayed me on one of the happiest nights of my life. The proposal was supposed to be a declaration of love, a promise of forever, and instead, it turned into the moment I found out she'd been lying to my face. I keep asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I was so blind to her bitchy ways and manipulative lies. But I guess love makes you stupid sometimes. You want to see the best in someone, even when everyone else can see the red flags waving in front of your face. Now, I realize I was caught in a web of her lies for way too long. She always acted like she was the victim, but it was her who was the true manipulator. I gave her my trust, my love, and my future, and she spat in my face with Tyler and all those messages. The worst part is the way she kept lying, pretending to be innocent, acting like I was overreacting when I found out. Like I should just accept her bitchy, deceitful side because that's who she really was. But I'm not that guy anymore. I've learned some harsh lessons. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to regain, at least for me. I also learned that some people are just master manipulators, and you have to be careful who you let into your life. Rachel showed me how easy it is to be blind to the truth when you want to believe so badly in someone. But now I see her for what she is, a selfish, lying woman who thought she could play me like a fool and get away with it. Well, she didn't. I finally decided to cut her out of my life completely. No more excuses, no more bullshit. I've started focusing on myself, rebuilding my confidence, and trying to find peace again. It's not easy, and I still have moments where I feel stupid for trusting her at all. But I know I can't dwell on what's gone. What's important is that I choose to move on, to heal, and to learn from this nightmare. To anyone out there going through something similar, I'll say this: trust your instincts, but don't ignore the red flags. If someone's acting bitchy, lying, or hiding their phone, pay attention. Because eventually the truth will come out, and it might be worse than you ever imagined. But no matter how much it hurts, you've got to be strong enough to walk away. Because there's better out there, better people who won't lie, cheat, or manipulate you. And in the end, you'll thank yourself for having the courage to face the truth, no matter how ugly it is.